So, hi everyone, and welcome to the White Rabbit podcast. Thank you for joining us. And we have a guest today, Shebnem Dag Gu, and I'll bring her on in a moment. But first, I wanted to mention 2 points of housekeeping. One is that I'm flying solo today, so it's just me. There's no Alper. Alper is doing some traveling today, and he couldn't make the recording, so fingers crossed he'll be back for the next one. And the second point of housekeeping is that our guest today, Shebnem, is representing herself today. So this is Shebnem Da Guven representing Shebnem Da Guven, not Shebnem Da, not Shebnem Da Guven representing EasyCo. So that said, it's a pleasure to have you with us today, Shebnem. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us today. So say hi to everyone, and don't worry, they won't bite.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And I know Shebnem from some years back. I think it was probably, I don't know, 2007 or 2008 or something like that, when you joined Istanbul Toastmasters. Does that sound about right?
Yes, it is.
And I think at that time, let's see, you had recently come back to Istanbul from
Boss.
Boston,
Yeah.
and you were finishing up at Deloitte. Is that correct?
Yes, I
And
was
then
at Deloitte.
after Deloitte, then you moved on to Akbank, and you were at Akbank for what? I think it was 12
12
years, right?
years. Yes.
And then you've been at EasyCo for about 2.5 years now, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
And remind me, what is your position at EasyCo?
So I lead sales, marketing, and business development at EasyCo,
Okay.
but I started my career in consulting. So in the
Mm,
US,
okay.
uh, when so right, you're right about the dates. In
Uh-huh.
2007, I came back to Istanbul, and I was in consulting, and I started working also here in consulting at
Okay.
Deloitte Consulting.
Uh-huh.
And then I moved into the strategy team with Akbank. So I managed strategy, innovation, and payment systems later on
Okay.
at Akbank.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then I moved on to, like you said, EasyCo two and
Okay.
a half years ago. And so I have a sales marketing and more business development focused role here now.
Okay. And let's dive right into our questions for you. The general theme of what we'd like to ask you about is building trust in the sales cycle. We have a lot of listeners who are selling into a new industry vertical, or they're selling into the same vertical, but they're doing it in another country. So the building of trust is high in their minds. So let's give them something that they can use along those lines. I imagine that building trust would be a really important aspect of your business because EasyCo and then the Akbank before that, you're dealing with payments. And so it's money and it's a basic operational aspect of the business. And you have to have trust nailed in order to get that kind of a sale. In order to say to somebody, hey, I'm going to get deep in your operations and it's okay. Don't worry. Your life's not going to go to pot just because I'm in town now. So there has to be a lot of trust. Can you tell me a little bit about how you go about building that trust in your initial, sales pitch?
So, building trust, it the path you take to it, I think it differs. It depends on depending on where you are. So if you take like my previous experience at a bank, the bank itself, by definition, um, is built on trust. So
Okay.
when you're under a particular brand name, it actually brings the level of trust and credibility with
Mm-hmm.
you. So
Mm-hmm.
the brand of the company or the bank is kind of forefront when it comes to establishing that initial layer of trust with the
Okay.
customers
Uh-huh.
or new clients or partners, whatever have you, because you can build, you'll have to build relationships with various parties.
Okay.
When you're in a startup or a scale-up environment like EasyCo, it's actually a different type of process.
Okay.
So you're a new company, a new brand name. The customer's not familiar with it.
Uh-huh.
And there are several aspects that at least I use, things I use in building trust. And there's also like especially differs whether you're talking to a local player versus a global player because we
Okay.
have global accounts and also local accounts that we
Okay.
work with.
Okay.
Local account. Hmm.
Let me interrupt you there just for a second. So just to clarify, when you say a global account, are you talking about like
Global brand.
Amazon or a global brand?
Yeah,
Okay.
like I don't know, any type of company that operates outside of Turkey as well or has started outside of Turkey or the
Okay.
local market.
Sure. Sure. Go on. Go on.
Um, which are usually managed internationally. That's what makes a difference. So you're talking to somebody who's not necessarily Turkish and you're
Okay.
not sharing the same cultural norms or signs or language.
Mm.
There's a barrier.
Okay.
Um, so where I start is, or let me backtrack. There are like three levers of building trust. One
Okay.
is the brand name of the company, like I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned. Second is your personal credibility
Mm. Okay.
and how you convey that.
Okay.
Because when you lack the wide known brand name
Uh-huh.
that you can build on, then it actually becomes how credible you are as a
Mm.
person or a business person, and how
Interesting.
knowledgeable are you on the specific topic that you're talking about.
Okay.
The third one becomes your product's performance
Okay.
and how you can prove that with specific data. In our case, especially because we work in financial services, so
Mm.
it's very, very numbers oriented industry.
Okay.
Um, and there's also a fourth one, and that is building credibility through association.
Tell me about the let's back up to I think it was in your list you mentioned it as point number two, I think, the building trust in you personally. Uh, how do you go about that? I mean, this is a B2B transaction. I mean, I would think that that would have limited application, but it was the second one that you mentioned. It seems like it's pretty
Yeah,
important. So tell me more
it's
about that.
it's very important, and it
Uh-huh.
actually by doing your homework. So you have to really, really research whoever the client is, what their value drivers are, what they're struggling with,
Uh-huh.
what the industry dynamics are. So what are the key pain points that they're trying to work through, and what are the key KPIs or drivers that they're trying to work for and accomplishing? And
Okay.
how does that specifically fit? How does your product or the service that you provide fits into what they're trying to accomplish and
Mm.
telling that story very in a concise and credible manner,
Okay.
meaning um, being very clear, communicating it clearly, but also with different examples, stories, market data, market intuition, etc.
Okay.
Um, this becomes important because, especially in the work that I'm doing, people are not very familiar with the Turkish market and what's going on in Turkey, the
Sure.
economy, the
Sure.
the online shopping environment, the e-commerce business, etc.
Yeah.
So a part of my job is also educating them on the
Uh-huh.
dynamics of the market. And
Okay.
that's where the whole personal credibility and how much you know and your know-how becomes really important in building that trust.
So how are you doing this? Are you mentioning your previous work experience a lot or what?
I mean, I do mention my previous work experience. That
Uh,
actually is one thing that adds value, but mostly it's about how much you know about what's going on in the market. How
okay.
does the market function?
Uh,
How does payments work in Turkey? Because it's really different from Europe or US or the dynamics we have in the country are different. How does this impact their business? How is it different from what they're used to in Europe? And
okay.
how does that create opportunity? What
Uh,
are some of the key key dynamics they need to focus on or manage, the key risks they need to manage in this market to
Okay.
become successful.
Mm-hmm.
So, and how does this impact their business from a
Mm-hmm.
number of sense perspective? Uh,
Okay.
so those are the things that I try to focus on. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I try to always build my story, and it's all about building the story. Like this
Okay.
is, like I said, you have to do your homework
Uh-huh.
and do your research and build a story because people like hearing stories. No one wants to see like, number presentations and here's this and here's the inflation rate and here's
Sure.
the interest rate, blah, blah, blah.
Uh,
They want to hear the story of how it impacts us and making it relevant to them.
let's. I am kind of keying in on your use of the word story here. When you, I mean, a story can be a lot of things. It can be, yesterday I ate an ice cream cone, or it could be here's some data and this is what it means. So, where on the spectrum are you? Are you talking about like personal Shebnem stuff, or it sounds
No, no, no.
it sounds like
So,
you're educating them on the market. Is that what you're doing?
yeah, I'm educating
Okay.
them on the market, but
Uh-huh.
how it fits into their their reality, let's say.
Okay.
So, for example, let's say I have one account that's really focused, has had is active in multiple markets,
Uh-huh.
very focused on operational efficiency, very uh, also cost focused, but also focused on customer experience and being innovative and
Uh-huh.
and things like that. So when I'm telling them about the market and what services we provide, I focus on how different dynamics uh, touch on those different value drivers, let's say that they
Mm-hmm.
are that they're it's on that are on their radar,
Sure.
and feed in how I can solve that problem for them and build my story around that story in the sense that the conversation and how I give them this information. So I'll tell
Mm.
them about, the by using our services, you can, create XYZ operational efficiency. You consolidate a lot of the work. So I create, let's say, 20% time savings for you.
Mm.
And I support these by different use cases or case examples from other accounts, which comes to I think it was the fourth point, which was creating credibility through association.
Yeah. So
So
tell me about that. What do you mean by that?
So if you position yourself
Uh,
with key partners that are very credible in the market, then
okay.
you get this notion of building credibility through association. So um, we have, for example, we have at EasyCo, we have really well-known customers that work with us
Okay.
that build our services. And as we move, and we're a very well-known brand in Turkey from a B2B service perspective on the
Yeah.
B2B side of things. Now
Yeah.
we're moving into a consumer business, trying to get the consumers to know the EasyCo brand, which is a
Okay.
bit challenging because the consumer is bombarded with, different types of messages every day.
Uh,
So, for example, last year we did this small campaign where we said, oh, what's that? I see EasyGo on my card statement.
sure.
Um, and what is that? And I said, and it was a campaign that said, if you see Samsung, if you bought a Samsung phone, then
Uh,
bought it with EasyCo and stuff
yeah.
like that. It's
Uh,
more like an Intel Inside type of a campaign,
sure.
but
Sure.
getting the name EasyCo and Samsung together actually elevates the brand because Samsung is also is already a well-known and trusted brand. Do you know
So
what I mean?
yeah, I think I know what you mean. So let me see if I'm following you correctly. So like for example, I'm an Amazon Prime member, and so on my monthly statement from my bank, it says Amazon slash EasyCo, 40 lira or
Yes.
something like that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Um, so I mean that's one example, and you can also do this with different partners,
Uh,
different reference points that you work with, different events that you're at. So just by being at specific events even can elevate your brand's credibility when you're
okay.
just starting
Sure, sure.
in this process.
And let's talk a little bit about the staff that works for you and them learning these skills, because what you've described, there's some pretty advanced communication skills, customer communication skills. Uh, do you find that, like, are these skills that are easy for people to pick up when they start working for you, or when they start working for you, does it take them years to learn how to do this well?
Well, it depends on the person. Some people are naturally talented. So if you're looking for, if you're looking for some salespeople,
Uh,
some people are just naturally talented in
okay.
building stories in there. Like that's how they think,
Uh,
that's how they process information, around
okay.
stories.
Sure.
So I think the key to that is finding the right talent that
Uh,
has a specific that are just maybe one step ahead.
okay.
So when you start working with those people, it's easy for them to pick up because it kind of resonates with them very easily. It's natural to them. So then it becomes feeding them the data points and the
Okay.
specific information, and
Mm,
they can easily craft the story themselves,
okay.
depending on the audience. And that's
Ah.
the other key point that I actually forgot to mention.
Ooh.
Identifying the audience is really, really important. Who are you talking to?
Ooh.
Are you talking to the tech people? Are you talking to the sales people? Are you talking to the commercial people?
So
They all have different ways of processing information. They all have different KPIs they're working for. The value drivers are different in all of them.
you're saying that somebody in your customer's IT department is going to process this information differently than somebody
Exactly.
in your customer's marketing department, huh? Like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So when you're talking to somebody from the IT department, you can
Uh,
focus on your technical specs, right?
yeah.
Because he's probably going to be more concerned about those things because they relate to his job and his KPIs and his work is based on those things.
Yeah.
And he may have specific concerns that are around those specific topics, technical topics.
Okay.
Whereas when you're talking to a marketing person, they may be more concerned about how you can help them gain more customers, attract more customers, drive more traffic to the site, etc.
Uh-huh.
So those are the different things that will help their business. And it's really, really important when especially if you're in a large organization working with a client that is a very large organization, you'll have multiple points of contact and they will all be different people. And it's all about managing um, the different audience and the players in the organization
Uh-huh.
because they will all have different roles. All you're looking for is creating a sponsor at different points for yourself and
Okay.
the company so that you can deliver. Well, first of all, you can actually convince the decision makers, but also after you've gotten through that point and started working with this particular customer, making sure that you deliver on what you promised.
Uh-huh. So walk me through a little bit about, you mentioned that some of your new employees are going to have this skill naturally. They kind of already know
Yes.
how to package a
And some
story,
don't.
and some don't. So let's talk about the ones who don't. So do you have a
So
do you have a process that you go through for bringing them up to speed on this?
I do.
Uh,
I do. So I always, first of all, I give them a process of how they can prepare for a sales call, meeting, whatever you have. And it starts with researching the customer. So
okay.
what are they concerned with? What are they trying to accomplish?
Mm,
How can we fit in this picture?
mm,
And where are they struggling? So what are the pain points? So
okay.
researching this, what are their overall strategies, etc., is
Mm,
critical.
okay.
And then I make them
Mm,
write like in a Word document,
okay.
uh, what they would like to convey.
Hmm. Wait.
Usually,
Let me stop you there for a second. So
there's speech based.
you're telling your people to actually, open up a Word document
Yeah,
and write and think this stuff through. Did I
yeah.
hear you correctly there?
Yes,
Wow.
exactly. I tell
Interesting.
them.
That's very
And even
methodical.
if it's a presentation,
Uh-huh.
even before starting to build up the presentation, I tell
Okay.
them to write it.
Yeah.
Um, so usually the first draft comes with like, hello, whatever, small talk,
Sure.
and then bullet points. So
Uh-huh.
I'm going to tell them about this product, that product, that product. And it's because we're really, really people are really, really focused on one, conveying data,
Uh-huh.
two, selling product features or service features, whatever. They don't
Okay.
really start with the customer and the need itself.
Interesting.
So then we work on this and try to build the story around how these features create what you understand the situation to be.
Okay.
So I understand that you're struggling with this, you're trying to accomplish this, blah, 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 blah. In this adventure, for example, we see that there are multiple opportunities to help you or, improve your performance, whatever you want to say,
Yeah.
and then start communicating the product features or the service features in value terminology.
Okay.
When I say value terminology, it
Mm,
can be numbers, so economic value,
sure.
because we're a B2B business,
Uh-huh.
and it can be also strategic value.
Okay.
So it may be something around, for example, if you have like a sustainability initiative within your organization, our solution may have some impact on that. I don't, I'm just making it up, this part up as I go.
And
Um,
do you find this is this a natural skill for humans to, I mean, you mentioned that, okay, well, initially it's pretty easy for them to spray down bullet points, features of our products, but you're kind of steering them towards telling a story and understanding the customer. Is that a
no,
natural
it's
human
not.
trait? How do you teach that?
No. Practice.
So it's not not easy, and it just takes a lot of practice.
No, it takes a lot of practice. It's
Uh,
not easy because, like I said, people, especially our education, our initial work experience, it always gears us about towards sharing information, data, at least because I'm in financial services, that's how it was.
yeah.
But selling an idea is a different thing. You can only sell an idea if you know what the person is struggling with or mm, what they're trying to accomplish. So you
Okay.
have to make sure you take your idea and put it in his picture,
Okay.
so that it resonates with them. And he says, "Oh yeah, this can help me in XYZ because now." And first of all, you're gaining credibility because you tell them you understand their situation, or
Uh,
you can at least interpret their situation.
okay.
And then you show them how you can help them with the specific services. And sometimes as the conversation goes, if I realize that, our product really doesn't fit in with, as we get more information, it doesn't fit in with what they're looking for something really different. I actually tell them, you know what? I actually think based on our conversation, you might need X, Y, and Z, and this may be a better solution for you.
Okay.
We can
Yeah.
build that, or you can get it somewhere else.
Yeah. And like organizationally, I'm wondering how this happens. So you mentioned that for somebody who doesn't have this skill naturally, it just takes practice. So how are they learning this skill? Are you pairing them with another like medium seniority person who kind of knows what he or she is doing, or
Yes.
are they working directly with you, or how does this typically happen?
So, first of all, we give them like formal training. So they go through a training program that's focused on translating data into stories.
Uh,
How can we create stories from data, that type of thing,
okay.
storytelling in a sales environment, etc.
Uh,
And then we actually work in pods. So, and they're category-based pods.
okay.
So we'll have a senior person and a junior person matched up together, whether it's account management or sales, and they will work together. So he or she will learn from the person who's more experienced.
Okay.
And like I said, we make them write the spiel, quote unquote, or their story and present it before we actually go into the meeting. So they get multiple chances to receive feedback on what works, what doesn't work, how they need to refine this. And once you do this like one or two times, you kind
Mm.
of
Okay.
get the gist of it. And it's just practice.
Okay.
And the whole process is, here's my story.
Uh-huh.
What do I want to tell this person? And then how do I support this with data?
Okay.
That's the
Okay.
second piece. So
Sure,
then
sure.
you insert the pieces of data that support your story, etc.
Okay.
And that's kind of how we go about it.
Okay. And then I have one more question, and this one is I'm going to try to channel Alper on this one. One more question before we wrap up for the day. And let's see. So when Alper told me that he couldn't make the call today, so I asked him, is there anything that you want me to ask Shebnem? And recently we had a guest on who is a corporate strategy expert. And so he and I, Alper and I both have strategy on the brain recently. So that's kind of where the question came from. So Alper said, okay, back in the early days, when EasyCo was first starting out, so it's not like EasyCo was entering, a blue ocean and, no one had ever made a payment before. It's like, it's a pretty crowded field. There are a gazillion people who make payments or who process payments. So what strategy was EasyCo following to stay alive in this crowded field of people who are already processing payments?
So at EasyGo, and this
Uh,
is kind of the founding story as well,
uh,
we focus on solving problems. I know this sounds like really generic and stuff,
sure.
but that's kind of where we start. So
Uh,
what's the pain point? What's the customer struggling with? And how can we solve this in a way that's fast, easy, and safe?
okay.
Um, and we still use these in our product development processes and experience design and all those things. Um, and in the day, so the founders of EasyCo, they are uh, German, Turkish German.
Sure.
They were living in Germany and they were visiting Turkey. And
Uh,
every time they visited Turkey, they would go into stores to shop and they would see these like six different POS machines on
oh yeah, of
at the
course.
counters.
I remember that
And
well.
then they were like, why are there like so many machines here?
Yeah.
And it actually started out with that, solving that
Ah,
problem. You
interesting.
really need to have six different machines processing
Yeah.
these. Like you said, because the physical environment is so crowded
Uh,
and the e-commerce was at the time just starting to grow in Turkey.
yeah.
They said, "Can we solve this for for small merchants who are going online trying to digitize their business?"
Uh,
and go into e-commerce um, and make it easier for them to set up their website and accept payments. And that's kind
uh,
of how it all started, solving that
ah,
problem. They found this little niche
uh,
and differentiated around that. And EasyCo, even now, is known as the fastest, easiest way to accept payments online. Like you can set up your website and start accepting payments in 24 hours.
yeah.
So that's kind of our
Let, let,
value proposition.
let me see if I'm following you correctly, and also I'm going to be painting a picture because there will be a lot of our listeners who are like they're like hearing this and they like they could barely believe their ears. So I vouch that it's true. At one point, you go into a corner market or something like that, and this market sells, I don't know, cigarettes and candy bars basically, and you walk in there and there's like 12 machines or 23
Yeah.
machines sitting on this tiny little counter. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, exactly. It's one of the idiosyncrasies of the Turkish payments environment.
uh
And it's and that was yeah, that was the problem they were trying to solve.
yeah.
Because the problem of one, at the time, equipment, so the
uh
devices, you need to get all these devices,
yeah.
but it was also managing the relationships with all the different banks. It was
uh
cumbersome, it
yeah.
was time consuming.
Yeah.
There were people who were specifically assigned to manage these relationships and the
Yeah.
reporting side
Yeah.
and the reconciliation, etc.
Yeah.
And if you think of the small SMEs, small businesses, they really weren't that knowledgeable. They were novice players. They weren't
Yeah.
that knowledgeable on all of these things. So it was all
Yeah.
about simplifying and democratizing access to these financial services
True.
um, for these small players, and that's how it all started. And it all started online. There
Wow.
was a physical presence. They sold online, they acquired customers online, and made the process super easy because, as you can guess, small businesses are also very not very tech savvy. So they needed help in putting these, software in place that would help
Yeah.
the integration piece. So integrating these services into their website so that they can accept payments. And it provided support around that and
Uh,
made it really seamless process for them.
yeah, yeah, excellent. Well, it's about time for us to wrap up. So I just wanted to thank you, Shebnem, for joining us today. It was a real pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. It was lovely.
And so I'll wrap it up here, and Alper and I will be back then in a couple weeks with the next episode. All right, so thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you later.